cast in that, the one you're always asked about? Please use the microphone.
My father was in the Air Force, and so he was stationed in Japan. And we got there in the summer of '65, and I almost immediately started working as a model. And in '66, I had a contract for the cover of a young woman's magazine, like a 17 magazine, but it was a weekly magazine. And Arthur Rankin, who produced the show, or the movie, saw my picture on the cover and found out that I actually lived in Japan. And he just called me on the phone and said, "I want you to be in my movie," and that's how it happened. I didn't audition, or I just was, I was at the right place at the right time.
Were you a bilingual speaker, or you just...
I spoke Japanese, but, not fluently. I mean, I could speak like we're speaking now, but I couldn't discuss anything deep, religion, politics, anything like that. But I could, everyday conversational Japanese, I spoke that. But that wasn't a criteria, because the American actors were speaking English and the Japanese actors were speaking Japanese, so it didn't matter that my character did not speak Japanese.
Interesting. I guess I'm going to ask everyone pretty much this. Carl, so you were a young boy?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I lived probably 2 blocks from Linda on Grant Heights Air Force Base. I was dependent.
We didn't know it.
We didn't know that at the time. So we arrived there in '64 and I left in '69. And when Dai decided they were going to put an American in one of the Gamera movies, and UASA got the approval to do so, they went looking for an American that could speak Japanese. And it just so happened that my uncle, my mother, who was Japanese, lived next door to a Dai producer and said, he was telling them their tribulations of trying to find somebody. He said, well, maybe you ought to contact my sister. She married an American serviceman. They have a blonde, blue-eyed kid that speaks Japanese. And so I came home from school one day, and my dad said, "You're going down to audition for a part in a Gamera movie." So, Linda and I were talking, coming up here in the car, is like, most people aspire to be actors and want to be an actor, and we just got tossed in the frying pan. And didn't have any clue that was going to happen to us, and it did. So it's the way it worked out.
Right, but Linda, you were an actress, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a part you got, Latitude Zero, one of the earlier films?
Yes, I really had not set my sights on being an actor, and in fact that was the one thing I refused to do when I was really little, like about 4 or 5 years old. My mom wanted me to model, and I did, and I was really compliant and really good. But she took me to an acting class, excuse me, and I just hated it, and I refused to ever go back. And what happened was that I ran away from home when I was 16, and I got married. I eloped, and we ended up in Los Angeles. And someone asked me if I wanted to come to their acting workshop, and his name was Ben Bard, by the way. He was an actor when silent films were made. Anyway, I went because I didn't have anything else to do, and I kept on with it. I actually got an agent from being in his class and doing the showcase, and then I auditioned for Latitude Zero. I went and read lines, and they liked it, and I got the part, and I, of course, was really uncomfortable and really scared when I went to Japan and had to actually perform, but I did it because it was the path of least resistance, I guess.
I guess it's just by coincidence that you 3 guys are here, and you appeared and acted in half-featured roles in 3 of the most unusual and popular Japanese sci-fi movies with, you loved following, but they are unusual pictures. Like, they're not the usual Godzilla type, what's the name? Kaiju. Right? They're not the usual kaiju. And they're also not they also were not childish either. They kind of walked a pretty strange line. For example, In Time Escapes. Just by hearing the title, not seeing the movie, you think, oh, it's, you know, a small children's film, and it becomes very weird with the Doctor Who character. And where did they find Rhodes' reason?
Originally, it was supposed to have been another actor, and I can't remember his name, but he was filming a Western or something, and he actually drowned. And so then they had to recast it. So when Arthur first told me that I had the part, and this person was going to be the co-star, then later on he told me, no, we're getting another person because this guy died. So I don't know exactly how Rhodes got the part, but he had the same kind of physical characters that the other guy did. He had been in Westerns, he was tall, he was very American looking and very manly looking. And so that's all I know about how Rhodes got the part.
Yeah, because he certainly had a look of a, you know, like a classic, you know.
Especially when he talked, his voice was just, you could tell he was trained, you know.
Yeah, very interesting. And I'll ask about the Doctor Who character later. We'll kind of jump around so everybody gets. So, Paul, you explained how you got the role. What was it like working on the film with, let's say, special effects wise?
Well, you know, when I went to Daiei, it was about a 14-mile trip from my house, and Daiei actually sent a driver in a limo to pick me up about 5 a.m. every morning. So I missed about 3 months of school, which was kind of cool when you're in 5th grade. But I had a tutor in the car, so I had to do all my schoolwork on the way to the studio, and then when we finished work, you know, on the way back. And we went on location a lot. Those were actually nice days because I could sleep into 8 or whatever. But we didn't have very many opportunities to go over to the monster set. We actually got invited over one time. Masao and I, went over, and one of the guys was stomping up and down in some buildings and everything, and he tripped and fell down and was literally laying on his back. The turtle was on his back and couldn't get up. And we busted out laughing. We got kicked off the set because we were making too much noise and laughing about it. So we never got to go back. And we didn't see any of the production until right before the movie was released. And then we found out that there was like 30 minutes of stock footage from 3 previous movies and some black and white footage and all kinds of weird stuff. So we kind of figured, wow, we didn't have any idea all this was getting pieced together into the movie. But we actually got to see it for the first time and saw how much of that kind of stuff was there. Now I have to admit, when you look at ILM now and everything else, I never saw so much piano wire and a guy in a rubber suit my entire life when I was, but that's how everything was done back in those days. The guy in the rubber suit was the guy. So, but it was interesting to see all the models, and even when you went to watch Star Wars 10 years later in the 70s, they were still blowing up models. So they still had to make these things and destroy them. So it's still kind of the way the project, the process went. So it was kind of cool to watch that in action.
Now, my question for you concerning Latitude Zero, when you were making the film, did you have any idea how unusual the movie was? It wasn't your straight, I mean, you had this crazy man scientist that was doing grafts on animals and humans, and Cesar Romero part, and Joseph Cotton was in there. Actually, everybody was really good in the movie. It was almost like, as a viewer, everyone was aware of the film, I guess, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and it was kind of ridiculous, but let's play it straight. Do you have remembrances of working with them and how it was approached, or how did you approach some of the movie?
I have to take a beat and kind of go back 50 years. I was pretty self-conscious about what I was doing. I was really outright uncomfortable because I had never done anything like that before. And so essentially, and I hadn't developed a craft. Later on, I became a member of the Actors Studio, and I had gone to an acting workshop where I actually, excuse me, oh, thank you. Where I actually developed a craft to get over the self-consciousness, where I had tools. And, but I didn't realize that then. It was just do the best you can. And I was really uncomfortable because I felt like everyone but me knew what they were doing. And that was true, because they all did know what they were doing, except for me, because I was so young. And Pat Medina, at one point I had said something to her like, do you know if all the actors or all the actresses, and I said, do you know if the actresses have to be there? It was some kind of a question like that. And she turned to me and said, well, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the only actress here. And that was okay with me. You know why? It was no doubt that I knew what it was she was saying. But the fact of the matter was, I accepted it really gracefully because she was so sweet to me all the rest of the time. She was not really malicious at all, so it was just, she felt like saying that, and it was true, because I wasn't much of an actress. But anyway, now when I look back at the performance I gave, I would say that, well, I know I was stiff, and that kind of worked because doctors are supposed to be, they're like, dignified to some extent. But anyway, I didn't know what I was doing. I just blew my pants. Is that what you were asking? Like I'm like really tripped out,
No, it's good. So, it's one for all.
Ditto for me.
So how do you guys feel when people, how do you guys feel when people come up to you at events like this, conventions, meetups, all the like, and someone not only knows pretty much your lines sometimes from these films, but just really just appreciate so much those movies that you appeared in? I mean, what does it feel like?
My experience was the same as Linda's, because I had never acted. I had never had an opportunity to take an acting lesson, so I felt extremely uncomfortable on the set. And I felt that I did such a terrible job. I never told anybody I was in the movie. So then when all this, came about, and I saw how the fans were in love with the characters and the story, I was like really humbled and grateful, and first of all, I couldn't believe it, but second of all, I just really was amazed at the amount of love that all the fans have for us. Whether we thought we did a good job or not, there was something in the performance that they connected with. Even if they were 6 and 7 years old, at least there was something that they connected with. So now, all these years later, I tell everybody I was in the movie. So it's been a wonderful experience.
And you have quotable lines. We'll get to questions in a few moments. Carl?
Well, unlike Linda, I was an exceptional actor at age 11. I was a kid. There was nothing for me to worry about, really. I mean, no matter how great I was or how bad I was, it didn't really matter because I didn't even think about it. It didn't even occur to me. But I think what what kind of impacts all of us in a lot of respect is the people that we were in those movies are not what you saw. The first time you ever saw Destroy All Planets in 1969 was a dubbed version, and it wasn't me talking.
Yeah.
Because I spoke Japanese in the movie, and I spoke English on occasion. Same with Linda. I mean, her movie got dubbed in Japanese and English, and then dubbed back in Japanese, and back into English, and her voice was not her voice. So it's kind of unusual that, you know, a lot of people come up and they say all kinds of nice things about the movie, and then when they finally find out that that really wasn't your voice and it wasn't really you talking all those times, it's kind of a surprise to some of them. But so in a lot of respects, I think it's pretty interesting that people still, you know, glom onto the fact that the movie had some kind of impact for them. We placed something or did something for them in their life that gave them some kind of incentive or made them think about something else. But the funny part is, it really wasn't us that was doing that. I mean, we were on the screen, but our voices weren't, so we weren't 100% there doing it.
But what about
It wasn't the same for Linda, right? I don't think so, yeah.
that was your voice?
That was your voice, you didn't get that over.
Yeah, it was my voice, yeah.
Yeah. That's different.
Any screams in King Kong escapes is me. They kept my screams.
Yeah, if you watch my movie, you know, I spoke Japanese in the whole movie, but in certain scenes, Yuasa asked me to say, like, fight, Gummer, fight, you know? So when you watch the dubbed version, it's like, why are you saying that, man? It just seems kind of, you know, crazy for you to be jumping up and down like that. Because I spoke English the whole time. In that one scene, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to be speaking English. You know, when I spoke English the whole time in the dubbed version, as opposed to Japanese for most of the movie and only English on occasion. So there were some weird spots to do.
So, you had a question, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like working with a Japanese director for a science fiction movie in Japan? Was there anything unusual about what they wanted you to do, like characterizations? You know, were they trying to get you to act as an American or as a Japanese person?
Well, my experience, there was not that going on. He was a director, and I don't think he thought Japanese versus American, because what he said to Rhodes or to myself was in line with what he said to Takarada or Hamamiya or any of those. So I don't think there was a distinction that way. He just was a really good director. We had an interpreter on set, Henry Okawa, who would then tell us what he said. I understood most of what Honda-san said, but some of the nuances I didn't because of the language. So Henry Okawa would talk to us, and I don't think there was any difference in Japanese versus English. He just knew what he wanted for the film, and that's what his direction was.
For me, Yuasa actually wanted that American or international flair, so he actually specifically asked me to say and do things like I would as an American in the movie to separate me from, you know, the actual script itself. So there was emphasis on me being an American in the movie many times for me.
I was so busy listening to your replies that I can't remember what the question
You want to
was.
Was there any difference in the way they wanted you to act versus like the Japanese characters, or are you trying to be more American?
No, I think they just wanted me to be more energetic. And because I was so uninhibited, I was afraid to make a mistake, so I got more and more stiff. I think they just wanted me, I mean, I could be wrong, because if I knew what they wanted, then I would have, I don't know, but I seem to remember not only Honda-san, the director, probably wanted more energy from me, but other directors wanted the same, because I just didn't get it until I got the tools to how to act is really how to not act. But at that point I didn't really know. I think I was not aware that if he did want that, I wasn't aware of it.
So you appeared in the Green Slime Another fan favorite with a cool song. Who does not remember the Green Slave song? And Linda, you went on to appear in a number of very interesting movies. Rolling Thunder, the movie with Jeffrey Lewis, which has got a huge following. It's very strange. Human Experiments is one of the titles. But I'm leading to Carl. You never seemed to do anything after that. Was there a reason, or did you actually do some movie work I was unaware of?
Well, like I said, I kind of stumbled into the job, and I did such a great job, I guess they just didn't need me anymore.
Well, I think there was confusion. You may have done another film, because when they did one of the AIP, I think it was AIP TV version of that Gamera film, got retitled as Destroyed All Planets, So it made it seem like a different movie to those who were like unaware. So, and it's not Destroy All Monsters, right?
Well, yeah, I think the Destroy All Planets came from the fact that Destroy All Monsters was a very popular movie, and they felt like they could keep the title and maybe keep the interest of the fans by saying Destroy All Planets, and maybe get some more people to come to it. But all I remembered was Gamera Taiuchi Kaiju Virus is all I remember, and that's the name of my movie. And that's how I remembered it. So when it came out as DAP, it was, it was different, but I said, oh, okay, I get it. It was dubbed anyway, so if they wanted to make an American version of it or give it an American title, I guess I understood it, but I didn't understand why it wasn't Gamera versus the Outer Space Monster Virus instead of Destroy All Planets.
Anyone have any other? Yes, sir.
This is for Linda Miller. I just want to know, how long was it after King Kong Escapes did you realize there's a cult following for the movie?
50 years. Yeah, in 2014, I think, I got a phone call, and the guy on the phone, I was at work, the guy on the phone says, "Hi, my name is Brett, and I live in Japan." And I said, "Well, I used to live in Japan." He says, "I know, I've been looking for you." And then that was the first time I said, "What did I do? Why are you looking for me?" And that was the first time I ever knew that there was any kind of fans for these movies. And I was flabbergasted. I just, when you're 19 and then you fast forward, almost 50 years later, and...
It's surprising no one's ever talked to you before that.
Well, Linda Miller. How do you find Linda Miller? And for a long time, you can find Linda Miller in any town in almost the world.
The other thing, though, the thing about they confused with Jackie.
Yeah, they thought I was Jackie Gleason's daughter. In fact, when I came back to the States and I enrolled in acting class and I got a part on, shot on My Three Sons, I had to get my union card, my SAG card. And so I did Linda Miller, and they said, "No, there's already a Linda Miller." So then my agent changed my name to Leslie Michaels, which I never felt comfortable with. And so they were looking for Linda Miller, thinking I was Jackie Gleason's daughter. Yeah. So, and the way Brett found me was when I was in Japan. I dated a Japanese actor, another Toho actor, and Brett knew this fellow, and he mentioned that he knew all the Americans from that era who were in the Toho movies, and he knew me, and he knew my middle name, and Linda J.O. Miller, and that's how Brett found me, was through that. So, but up until then, I had no idea. I really had no idea, or I would have been here sooner.
Anyone else? Yes.
I'll throw another one at you. When you were doing King Kong Escapes, there's a scene when they're trying to freeze you to death. Were they actually put you in something that was cold, or it was all special effects?
Well, by then I knew a little bit more about acting, so I can't remember. I felt cold, but I don't think they really froze us. Because you have all the lights, and so it would be hard to freeze you. Because you do so many takes, you'd be, popsicle by the time they got all the takes to. So no, it was just acting.
Well, that's our panel. Thank you guys for coming so much. We really appreciate your work. We appreciate the movies that you're in, and let's have a round of applause.